In part 1 and 2 of this series, I described how I could use a simple diode as an audio switch by either applying a forward or a reverse bias voltage to control the flow of the audio signal across the diode. Now this works as an audio switch because I'm using voltages as high as plus and minus 9 volts, well away from that region where the diode transitions from being non-conductive to conductive. In this part, I want to take a look at what happens when I bring that bias voltage down in and around that transition or the forward voltage for the diode. The effect is something that's interesting and recognizable, but not something that you would have expected from just a simple diode. So let's start with the diode itself. A diode doesn't suddenly flip on and off. Its current versus voltage relationship is continuous and strongly nonlinear. In fact, it's exponential. As the forward voltage increases, conduction rises slowly at first and then increasingly faster as the exponential region is entered. There's no hard threshold. It's a steep curve. Now, once the diode is forward biased, it's going to behave like a small signal resistor around the operating point. It's not just a one-way wall. So when I'm here, a small AC signal can move the current in either direction as long as that total voltage never pulls the diode out of forward bias. Now, when the diode is not forward biased or reverse biased way over here, practically no signal can conduct through. So audio is an AC signal. That means it's constantly going positive and negative around zero. By itself, that's a problem for the diode. Half the waveform would get chopped off. But when we apply that DC bias to the diode, we're shifting the operating point. Now the diode is already turned on well before the audio even arrives. So instead of trying to push the diode on and off, the audio signal is just riding on top of that DC bias. And the diode stays forward biased the entire time, and the audio can move back and forth to move freely through it. So here's the part that most people don't think about. The diode doesn't suddenly snap off the moment the bias voltage drops below 0.7 volts or whatever our forward voltage is. As we slowly reduce the bias, what we're really doing is we're raising the resistance of the diode. At first, the audio passes through easily. As the bias gets lower, the diode conducts less current. The higher resistance starts forming a voltage divider with the rest of the circuit. The result, the audio signal gets gradually smaller. There's no hard cutoff, no clicking, and no sudden silence, just a smooth attenuation as the diode transitions from fully on to mostly off. Once again, we're dealing with the single diode single pole switch. I've got my input signal passing through the diode to the output, and instead of using the positive 9 and negative 9 rails to completely turn on and off the diode, what I'm doing is I'm using a potentiometer to scale between positive 9 and negative 9 volts. So whatever the voltage is that I'm taking off of the wiper there, that's going to be my solid voltage there. And then I'm going to run that through an inverting amplifier to produce the lower rail here on the switch. So for every voltage that I can get directly from the potentiometer, all the way from minus 9 to positive 9 volts, the inverse of that goes from the positive 9 down to the negative 9. That allows me to tune how much bias is applied to the diode here, and we'll see the effect of how much of that signal is able to get through. All right, let's look at it on the bench. All right, so this is the test setup. I have my diode switch here with a pair of capacitors, 100K resistors, and a silicon diode to act as the switch. In parallel to this, I have a pair of LEDs to give me an idea or an indication of the amount of on and off that the switch is. And down here, I have a 100K pot that I'm using to sweep the control voltage from -9, as it shows here on the voltmeter, up to around 0 in the middle, and up to 9 volts all the way up. Now the control voltage is going to my upper leg, or the pull-up resistor of my diode switch. And I've got an inverting amplifier up here, which is turning that control voltage into the opposing voltage for the lower leg, or the pull-down resistor of the diode switch. Over here to the left, I have a signal generator that I'm using as an input signal, and I'm going to make some adjustments to the switch here, and we can view what's happening to the signal on the scope. So there's the scope running. I have the switch all the way in the off position, and I can start the wave. There's my input signal. We don't hear anything because we're in the off position. You can see -9 volts. The scope is showing the input signal coming in. It is about it's about 600 millivolts from peak to peak. So as I turn the control voltage up, so the switch is all the way in the on position. I can see the output coming out on the scope. Turn it into the off position. The output signal goes away, but I still see my input. All right, so there I am off. Now I'm going to set the bias voltage right around the bias voltage at 0.6. And I want to show you something on the scope. Don't need to hear it, I just want to see it. So I have a 600 millivolt signal going into the switch. The bias is set right at the forward voltage of 0.63 volts. And on the output over here, if you notice, the top of my output sine wave is still fairly peaked, but on the lower half of the sine wave, it's a lot more shallow. What you're actually witnessing here is, since my input is right around 600 millivolts, and the forward voltage of the diode is also around 600 millivolts, the upper half of the input, the voltage across the diode switch, is a little bit more positive. So the resistance of the diode is less. For the lower half of the input wave, the voltage is a little bit less across the diode, so the resistance of the diode is more. You're seeing the effect of a lower resistance for the upper half of the signal and a higher resistance for the lower half of the signal. There's not a sharp cutoff for the lower half of the wave. Now, as I turn the bias voltage down, you'll start to see some characteristic flattening of the bottom part of the curve. I've made a couple of changes to the test setup. First off, I'm using the signal generator as an LFO to drive the control signal, which is going to the pull-up resistor on the diode switch, and also going through the inverting amplifier to send a signal to the pull-down resistor of the diode switch. I'm using my guitar signal as an input now, and over on the scope, I am monitoring both the control voltage and the output signal from the diode switch. Setting the signal generator up as an LFO or a low frequency oscillator. As I play the guitar now, I'm controlling the conduction of the diode rhythmically with a low-frequency oscillator. As the bias voltage rises and falls, the diode's resistance rises and falls with it. And for the audio riding on top, the volume goes up and down in time with the low-frequency signal. At this point, the circuit has turned into an amplitude modulator. The result is exactly what your ears recognize as a tremolo. By adjusting the DC offset, or the center point of that LFO, I can change how much time the diode spins fully on versus barely on. Move the offset up and the tremolo becomes a subtle pulse. Move it down and the volume dips get deeper and more choppy. I can change the amplitude of the LFO too, and it does something similar. At a larger voltage swing, the diode resistance is lower and the sound is more clear. With a small voltage swing, the diode resistance remains high and it can sound kind of gritty. But the most interesting thing is the low-frequency waveform itself. Sine wave makes the tremolo sound smooth and natural. The triangle wave is more linear, so the volume ramps up and down at a constant rate, and it feels more mechanical. It's like the volume swell on Van Halen's Cathedral to me. Square wave is completely different. The diode snaps between two conduction states, and you get this really hard, rhythmic on-off effect, almost like a gate. It's not that pleasing. In a sawtooth waveform or reverse sawtooth waveform, it's asymmetric, so you get a fast attack and a slow decay, or the other way around. And how about a 2 Hz EKG signal? It's got a rhythm all its own. So same circuit, same diode, but a totally different musical feel from all of them. Pretty cool. So from one diode and a control signal, we get smooth switching, voltage-controlled attenuation, and a tremolo effect, all from a part that just cost a couple of cents. And if you ever wonder why analog electronics matter, this is why. So thanks for sticking around. Catch you next time when I dig deeper into the nonlinear behavior of a diode. See ya.